Welcome to Easy English Story, where powerful lives become easy English lessons. Let's dive into today's inspiring journey. Mark Zuckerberg, the code behind the connection. Chapter 1. A Curious Mind is Born. Mark Elliott Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984. In White Plains, New York, into a well-educated and supportive family. His father, Edward Zuckerberg, was a dentist, and his mother, Karen Kempner, was a psychiatrist. Mark grew up in Dobbs Ferry, a quiet suburb of New York, alongside his three sisters. Even in his early years, it was evident that Mark had an extraordinary intellect and an insatiable curiosity about how things worked. Unlike most children who were content with toys, Mark was captivated by computers. By the time he was 12, he had created a messaging program called ZuckNet, which his family used in their home and dental office. His father noticed his son's growing passion for coding and hired a private tutor, David Newman, to teach Mark computer programming once a week. Newman would later say, "It was tough to stay ahead of him. Sometimes he knew more than me." Chapter 2. A Passion for Programming. Mark enrolled at Phillips Exeter Academy, a private preparatory school, where he excelled academically and became known as a computer whiz. During his time there, he developed various software programs, including a music player called Synapse, which used artificial intelligence to learn users' listening habits. The program gained media attention, and companies like Microsoft and AOL approached Mark with offers to buy Synapse and hire him. However, Mark turned them down. Instead, he set his sights on a bigger goal: to study at Harvard University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. In 2002, he was accepted into Harvard, where he majored in psychology and computer science. Chapter 3. From Dorm Room to World Stage. At Harvard, Mark's mind was constantly buzzing with ideas. He became known on campus, not just for his brilliance, but also for his intense focus and somewhat awkward social demeanor. One evening in 2003, after a breakup, Mark created a website called FaceMash, a site that let students compare two photos of their classmates and choose who was more attractive. The site went viral across campus, but was quickly shut down by the university for violating privacy policies. FaceMash's success, however, sparked an idea. In early 2004, Mark began working on a new project, a social networking platform exclusively for Harvard students. He partnered with his roommates Dustin Moskovitz, Eduardo Saverin, and others. On February 4, 2004, the site went live under the domain thefacebook.com. Within days, it had hundreds of users. Within weeks, it spread to other Ivy League universities. Chapter 4. The Facebook Revolution. As Facebook grew rapidly, Mark dropped out of Harvard in his sophomore year to focus full-time on the venture. He and his team moved to Palo Alto, California, where they rented a house that served as both home and office. What began as a college project was quickly becoming a global movement. By 2005, the Facebook dropped the "they" and simply became Facebook, with funding from investors like Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal, and mentorship from Sean Parker, the founder of Napster, Facebook expanded beyond universities to the general public. Within just a few years, Facebook had tens of millions of users. It allowed people to connect, share photos, post updates, and build digital communities, something the world had never experienced at such scale. Chapter 5: The Legal Storm. But success didn't come without conflict. Soon after Facebook launched, Mark was approached by three Harvard seniors, Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra. They claimed Mark had stolen the idea from their project. Harvard Connection, later renamed Connect2, which Mark had briefly worked on. A bitter legal battle ensued, ultimately resulting in a settlement. The Winklevoss twins received $65 million in cash and stock, though they later tried to reopen the case as Facebook's valuation soared. This controversy was dramatized in the 2010 film The Social Network, which portrayed Zuckerberg as a brilliant but socially distant figure. Though the film was critically acclaimed, Mark later commented, "They got the details wrong, and the broader story was hurtful." Chapter 6: The Billion-Dollar Leap. In 2012, Facebook made headlines again, this time for going public. Its IPO, initial public offering, raised $16 billion, making it one of the largest tech IPOs in history. At just 28 years old, Mark Zuckerberg became one of the youngest billionaires in the world. But Mark wasn't just chasing money. He had a mission: to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. He began acquiring other companies to expand Facebook's reach and capabilities. In 2012, Facebook acquired Instagram for $1 billion. In 2014, it bought WhatsApp for a staggering $19 billion and Oculus VR for $2 billion. Each acquisition extended Facebook's influence, not just as a social network, but as a tech powerhouse. Chapter 7: Personal Life and Philosophy. While the world debated his empire, Mark's personal life was taking shape. He began dating Priscilla Chan, a fellow Harvard student. In 2003, they were a low-profile couple, often seen walking or dining together. In 2012, shortly after Facebook's IPO, the couple married in a private backyard ceremony. Mark and Priscilla have since had 2 daughters, and their family life remains relatively private. In 2015, they announced the formation of the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative, CZI, pledging to donate 99% of their Facebook shares over their lifetimes to causes such as education, health, and technology. Mark often shares his thoughts on personal growth and philosophy. He sets annual challenges for himself, such as learning Mandarin, running 365 miles, or reading 2 books every month. These habits reflect a man constantly striving for improvement. In Life and Leadership. Chapter 8: Facing Global Challenges. As Facebook grew, so did its responsibilities and scrutiny. In the 2016 U.S. presidential election, Facebook was accused of being a platform for fake news, political manipulation, and Russian interference. In 2018, the Cambridge Analytica scandal erupted, revealing that the personal data of 87 million users had been improperly accessed. Mark was called to testify before the U.S. Congress, answering tough questions about Facebook's policies, user privacy, and content moderation. Wearing a suit, a rare sight for the famously hoodie-wearing CEO Mark faced lawmakers with composure. He admitted failures and vowed to do better, but the incident marked a turning point. Facebook was no longer just a tech company. It was now a global political and ethical entity. Chapter 9. Reinventing the Vision. Meta. In October 2021, Mark made one of his boldest moves yet. Facebook Inc. rebranded to Meta Platforms. Inc., signaling a shift from social networking to building the metaverse, a 3D virtual space where people could interact using avatars, virtual reality, and augmented reality. Mark described the metaverse as the next chapter of the Internet. The idea was ambitious, futuristic, and risky. Critics questioned whether users were ready for such a digital transformation. But for Mark, it was about long-term vision. Meta invested billions into developing hardware like VR, headsets, Oculus Quest, and software platforms to support the metaverse. While adoption has been slow, Mark remains steadfast, believing that immersive digital experiences will define the future. Chapter 10. Legacy in the Making. Today, Mark Zuckerberg stands among the most influential figures in tech history. From a Harvard dorm room to a company worth hundreds of billions, his journey has transformed how billions of people connect, communicate, and consume information. Yet Mark's legacy is still evolving. To some, he is a visionary, a modern-day innovator akin to Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. To others, he is a controversial figure whose platform has been both a force for good and a source of harm. But what's undeniable is his impact. Mark continues to push boundaries, from artificial intelligence to global internet access via drones and satellites. He's not satisfied with past success. He's focused on what's next. Mark Zuckerberg is more than a programmer or CEO. He's a symbol of how a single idea, driven by obsession and belief, can reshape the entire world. His journey, marked by brilliance, criticism, failures, and transformation, is a story of our times. A story of technology, responsibility, and ambition. In his own words, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. And for Mark Zuckerberg, the biggest risk he took, dropping out of college to follow a dream, changed history.